across the way over by Lost
さん
Lake.
ここやって引かれてん
I
の
also like this mentality from ADN. Just fish while you can. It's going to be a lot harder to find opportunities for this once that end game starts to take place. Just so much chaos
切り
and
くじ引かれた
teams kind of rolling over into your box.
切りくじが
Wait
死
a
んでしま
minute.
った
I think FLHIYU has just been knocked down. Up on Shogun's arena. Now causing Arc and his trio to potentially play a bit more aggressive. They go for the double res. Will it be enough time? As one player is holding the bills, the other is resing, and now it looks like FLHIYU has been brought up, but we've had a lot of situations, Taco, where it kind of gets a little too close for comfort here.
That double revive is so quick though, and Vico, Veno, they might have just been more upset by the fact that they're being contested currently on Shogun's Arena than anything else. Still willing to try and just tackle this boss up here. Zero consideration for the trio that they were just dealing with. In fact, it doesn't even look like that team is stuck around. Takata, they knew the last thing that they wanted to do was try and take that fight. The moment that the successful double revive happened, that was what really sealed the deal. On Arc just deciding, okay, we're better off leaving.
You can see the aura that Vico, FLHIYU, and Veno kind of have, right? Normally when you get a knock, you're like, all right, we're trios. Let's just pre-edit, go right into their box, right? But now, you know, you see they kind of give them time, let them revive, and you're like, okay, yeah, we're going to run away now. Fair enough, though. I'd do the same thing, to be fair. I'd be out of there. So good news for Vico, Veno, FLHIYU. They did take down the boss. They got that Shogun's medallion, so Veno will be invisible while sprinting, which is going to be huge for the late game, especially if he has to clutch it out. I'm excited to see if they can kind of use this Rift Island now to get tags on opposing trios, and even if they pull zone, maybe use it to their advantage for height.
Yeah, Vico's punishment from last game doesn't get that same medallion priority. Veno's going to take it since Vico found himself eliminated first. I'm not going to say that that's the actual reasoning, but it would be kind of funny to think about. Still, knowing that that team is in control of that Invis medallion, Takata could really pose some serious threat to teams that are trying to play more passively in those mid-ground layers, because Veno, Vico, FLHIYU, that's an area that they like to kind of play out of right before they look to make their height takes.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how these zones do end up closing, but I'm excited to see how it plays out as players continue fishing, getting spare shield fish so they can use to kind of lose a bit of HP for tags if needed. As we're back to Thomas HD, Fred, and Trip, I want to see a big game from this trio here. Looking at the materials they have, the loadout they have, now looking incredibly healthy. It's just about kind of damage at this point. I want to see them get a strong late game. They already have one elimination in a good position in zone, to be fair, so I got high hopes here, Taco.
I mean, they want to see themselves with a big game also. They have... It's been odd. Again, I know that this team has had to do a lot of last-minute adjustments, but when you think about the veterancy that's represented from this trio, and the fact that Kilova made a great point on the desk, Thomas, he's kind of been leading the way as far as like stats and numbers are concerned. Top of the board there from Thomas consistently. So a big performance would definitely go a long way here, especially considering how they just scraped by to be in this group in the first place off that player's performance.
I mean, we know Thomas's history. I'll bring out more about it if we see him later on in this match. Hopefully looking to close it out, but Laha, on the other hand, is not in the best of positions, you could say. Good news is he does have his full trio. Bad news is he's gonna have to take time to pop this med kit while his teammates look for damage on the teams kind of taking shots at him. They've also used quite a lot of metal to kind of not get focused here, and they do have to rotate anyways, so hopefully they can at least make use of this base to do a bit of damage. 34 above now.
Couldn't have come at a better time either. Those shots from Maha, but they're not on the thick of it just yet. Mixon even going to look to try and take out this tree just to open up even further line of sight. Unfortunately, though, the damage numbers just continue to slip away from them and against their favor. Artist not safe inside of the bush, though. Blaha one more time saving grace for his team, but it's so little damage above the threshold. Almost immediately they dip right back below.
Yeah, and they're walking to a side of zone where I don't know how many angles they're going to have on opposing trios other than the ones directly behind them. It's going to be their only option here to shoot back, so they need to connect these shots. 68 players up in the 6th zone. This is just going to be a tough rotate overall.
Especially considering that they have already used
まだまだ
practically
たいか
all of
10
their
個以上は
materials. I mean, still enough split both ways
めっちゃ
to
伸びてん
mix
だけど
in,
マジで
right? But Comeback,
バイキン入ったかもしれ
unfortunately,
ない
gonna get taken out. That surge threshold just so problematic, especially when you're dealing with teams that are taking notice of your team being under so much stress. Unfortunately, it's gonna leave Mixon and Blaha to try and close this one out as a duo at 205 below now. The jumps just keep getting bigger and bigger, and yet Blaha, Mixon, they just don't feel comfortable quite yet exposing their position and looking for some tags.
Yeah, bad news is they've got 9 players needed to get eliminated. I was going to say good news is they've got a few seconds to get tags, but it's literally a few seconds now as Storm Surge will eventually start ticking here. But
戦ってるし
yeah, Blaha Mixon at this point, it's go for a third party, go for a pre-edit somewhere. Like you're not going to get enough damage here just kind of shooting the players.
無理やろこれは。
So I don't
絶対
really
無理やん
That was, yeah, the intent there was definitely to look for a third party up against Momsy's trio. It's just not going to come to fruition here. The final med kit being used now. This might just be the beginning of the end. Mixin even. It's not going to be Surge, but it might as well have been because Skyjump and them just immediately pounce. Clean elimination. Now is going to draw more attention towards Blaha. Skyjump. Shaco's just continuing to aggress into these walls here. Blaha buying himself a little bit of time, but again, Takata, just how much is really enough here for Blaha's circumstance?
You could like sneeze on Blaha and eliminate him right now with the amount of HP he has. 2 trios in the surrounding areas. 2 HP on the dot.
ここから勝ったら俺全裸配信する
I don't know if Blaha ends up
こ
coming
い
out
つ
of
が
this
こいつがここから勝ったら
ending victorious. That's
さすが
gonna
に
be
He's winning
history,
the
but
game.
if he wins the game, I'm gone. I'll leave right now. I'll just stand
Oh
up.
no, Mongrel.
Mongrel gets eliminated. Savage and Panzer left as a duo. Once again, not a full trio form for this
これまた
late
戻る
game.
精神ちょっとやべえ
Something they consistently run into, but hopefully they can at least clutch out a few points to maintain their spot on the leaderboard.
These teams are just getting shredded though, trying to make their way up
We
the
need the
elevation,
anti-high
this
now,
slight
look.
cliff face here, and teams that were already on height. We saw Asa as well getting beamed, eliminated in the
あと
process.
これ含め3
And a
マッ
good
チ。
chunk of those teams on the low ground kind of struggling to stay just above that damage
Nico
threshold
Katsu's gonna
territory,
split it
Takata.
うん？
Mr. Savage and Panzer, they can definitely feel the pressure rising here.
リコ勝ちますよこ
Blah
の試
will
合
be taken out by that
リコ勝てる
surge tick as Veno, Vico, Flixie,
てかもう突
a
破じゃね
much
もう
healthier team in comparison to the rest, and they're going to take full advantage of it by just getting primo
ついてやるべき
positioning.
か
Yeah, when you're this healthy, you can get yourself close to zone, and even if you
Miraona
want
絶
free
対できる
fire
だよ
some
ね
Oni masks into where the storm currently is now in just a few
ラ
seconds,
ストチャン
it's
ス
going
メ
to
ジ
be
ャ
a
ー
zone
って
that you
さ
can go on into.
3試合って言
Good
ってたけ
news
ど
is now they
さ
can just look back, take shots at
いける
everybody
だけ
that's going to be rotating in.
でもさ全員出れるんでしょ
Honestly, trip
それをキャッ
for
シュやっ
Doxy
て
are continuing to look quite
そうい
healthy
うこ
throughout
と
this match.
じゃあ33位に入んないやつじゃん
Now,
とりあえず
for the players that aren't
でも
so
33位は
fortunate,
ね
だから
the ones
最初は普通に
on the other
10試合
end of the
か
door of Veno, Flixie, Vico.
あよかった
It's gonna be another
じゃあ大丈夫
on
だ
the board. Already at 6,
え
and
で
the
も
end
普通
game
にラス
hasn't
トチャ
even
ンスの予
started.
選とか絶対初動勝てるくね
QB tried his
いや
best,
めっちゃ
but
絶対弱いと思う
it is an unfortunate trio to
なんか
encounter Vico,
もうめっちゃ
Veno, and
強い
Flixie when they
や
are
つじゃ
on
な
such
か
a
ったら
rampage. Vico,
ね
though,
っていうのと
teleported up to
上位
height,
30 チ
but
ームいないから
definitely paid a pretty
そうだね
significant
そうワンチャン
price
一桁
there.
とか全然上位狙えるし
Good amount of
要請
shields
取られ
to
た
recover it, but they've got to watch their floors currently. Teams underneath them looking
あ
to
ポイント伸びるの早
try
くね
and see if they can
198から
chop them out, catch them off guard, and
マ
look
ジ
for a knockout
でこの
elimination.
よくねこの ARC みたいな最後やりたやつもう
That's not only a good item, obviously, to replenish shield, but also if you want to try and retake height later
Oh,
in the
Master,
game, you can
so
kind of take
この試合伸ばせば
Storm
全然ある
without
しね
water sprite and then look for a back of the zone height retake, but
チ
now
ャンスの休みで記
running
録ないや
lower
ろ
and lower on shields. We'll see what they end up choosing
1か
as 9
It's a
zone
dot.
will start pulling here shortly.
ディビジョン2ぐらいかボーダー低くな
This
る
is the
よな
team,
さすがに
though. Rickboard, Zato, we saw them briefly attempting to challenge Vico, Veno, and FLHIYU on the top of Shogun's arena, but it looks like that
320
disengage
とか取ればいけるか
has slightly worked out for them. Unfortunately, though, that material count looking a little bit too low to actually try and consistently control height. All the while, Thomas HD from the low ground
早くないな
might be set off into
トー
a
マスも全然あ
blind
るけどな
TP here. Could be in
キル
danger.
してるね誰だっけサーフェイジ
As long as he's able to reunite with the rest of his team, he's going to be set for the time being.
Look at this though. Savage, Panzer, they've played this whole end game now out as a duo. We'll see how far they're able to go as they run lower and lower on materials. Only 11 builds left for Mr. Savage here. Gonna be forced to play a bit more of the backside of zone, use those Oni masks to try and get ahead as Vico, Veno, and FLHIYU are looking still incredibly healthy enough to make a high ground retake here
え
shortly.
このなんかスイカなんてか誰これ
They are just so committed
What
to
is
staying
Suika-san?
about one or two layers above the low ground, fully
Suika-san?
carving out so many of these boxes being claimed by them that they're going to be able to look for height soon enough here.
Savage
Mr.
ナイスポイント
Savage, though, will no longer be a part of this
うわ
lobby. It's
行くぞ行くぞこれ
exclusively down to Panzer to get some big
行っ
placement
た
points
あ
for
落
that
下した
trio.
え
As now,
あいやミスって落下したもうこれもうシナリオ見えたらこれ
spotted his moment.
終わっ
It's
た
only a matter of time. Vico even going to
勝利の
teleport
方
up
程式
because
完成済みや
he
こ
knows
れ
his IGL is already making way on the high ground.
Not only that, they got a knock from the chop. One of the players either didn't have an Oni mask or just didn't place it
俺らにも聞こえるんだ
before they were chopped down. As now it's a basically free high ground for Vico,
や
Veno,
ばくね
and FLHIYU with
こ
the
れ
amount of materials they have, the amount of
これキ
ammunition.
ルしに行ってんのグロックね普
It
通に
looks like if they just play this by the books, they can close it out. As Trip has been left as a solo now. Thomas HD
Igor
got
Trip
taken out. As now
Igor
Trip
Trip
has no
だ
materials to work with. Either goes down.
ほらもうビッグスカイジャンプって人生きとるし
Biggest threat currently
画面固
towards
まっちゃった
Vico, Veno, and FLHIYU from closing this one out is
ほら
encountering
もう
other fully intact trios.
絶対
That's
勝った
why
ろ
they're
これ
trying to play some disruptive
勝った
factors here towards the low ground, but
えうま
Veno
っ
with
Veno
that
うまっ
Shogun's
あ
medallion just kind of
でも
diving
勝ったろ
every
ほら
which
やっ
way.
ぱり
It's why not going to stand a chance here. He'll be the first one to get knocked. Ovalo going to be next there
え譲るの
from Vico.
いや
Now
いや
Jake
でも
Luca
一応このポイントでビクロしたら1位じゃないの
escape, but it's no good. Vico's got him in his sights.
1位より練
I'm
習
looking
だ
at this trio. They're looking
Ah.
absolutely electric.
Vico
Don't
死に
feed
そう
the
だけど
beasts. They're hungry for eliminations. They're looking for
そり
more.
ゃそう
But you gotta be careful.
いやでも
FLHIYU
さすが
has
に
almost
勝ちそう
gone
だけど
down.
ね
Gonna
勝って終
have
わらせそう
to take a pause, recuperate that HP before they take the final battle. Might be against Della, Refsguard, and Focus.
But Della just ate a massive
Veno,
chunk out of his
もうグロいっ
shields.
て
He's not
ブルドー
healthy
ザーか
enough
こい
to
つ
continue this exchange. They're trying to just fully commit to the low ground play to make it where you can and hope that Veno doesn't spot them out anytime soon. But Veno, all he wants, all he needs is just a good connection shot off of the pump. Just wants to be as disruptive as possible towards the low ground.
本当になんか譲れそうだな譲るか普通にシンプルに負けそう
Sky jump down below.
スカイジャンプある
A lot of trios playing it out, but now the battle of low ground comes through. Perfect opportunity for high ground to come on in. Say hello. Shake off now, deciding to play Edge of Storm here, trying to find an angle, a potential connection, but it's FLHIYU from the backside is gonna get that knock as now Momsy's gonna fall shortly after, and it looks like it's a quick cleanup for Veno, Vico, and FLHIYU, but I don't want to speak too soon as FLHIYU goes down. Veno now left alone alongside Vico. It's looking like a 2 versus 1.
Veno
This could go either way.
But this should be Veno. Veno wants it so badly. Momsy gonna try and prevent him from connecting the shot to Mantle up turns against Veno. But Momsy can't face off with the big Vico. As Vico ensures that Veno himself and FLHIYU get this victory royale. That was a dicey ending though, Takada.
I was on the edge of my seat watching Vico, Veno, FLHIYU play that out after player after player going down to the last one. Luckily enough, though, Vico was able to connect his shots and take home that victory royale to book themselves a golden ticket to the FNCS.
最後のやつワンチャンあったし
It's just the way that they ran in one after the other. For a moment, it looked like Momsy might actually be able to do it. But that is just the kind of backup firepower that Vico, Veno, and FLHIYU all entrust each other with. They knew from the moment that they took high ground that it was just going to come down to exclusively timing their engagements.
Yeah, and I mean, Monty and his
ワン
trio,
チャン打てたら勝ってたな、5HP じゃなかったら多
too
分。
high on the
上向いてたら。
consistency leaderboard. They were making their way up there, but now with that second place position, they're going to be healthier than ever. So let's head right back over to Frankie 11 Mini for them to break it down.
勝ってんの
Thank
と
you
か見た
so
らなん
much.
か
And to cut
フリ
you
ービルドしたく
absolutely
なっち
right.
ゃ
Our French trio, they were in 10th position going into this game number 3, but now they're surely going to be looking higher. We'll be talking about that after the break. But right now, we have got to say sayonara to Veno, Vico, and Flixie because they booked their spot in the Major 1 finals next weekend. They are inevitable, and the writing was on the wall really from game number 1. Vico was absolutely on fire, and Levin, it's only fitting that he took that victory royale.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the key there was actually the switch up. We saw practically the exact same play in terms of going for the height take. You saw them sort of chopping things out. And in this game, instead of Vico being the one with the medallion, it was Veno. And I think it makes more sense. When I've spoken to these guys about that in the past, right? Vico feels more comfortable without it. And he'd rather Veno has it. And I think Veno's a better player with it. If you know Veno's playstyle, he's a bit more of that lurker style, right? He enjoys lurking, catching people, finding good timings. And so a medallion that allows him to be invisible is just like busted, right? So yeah, I think that combination worked better. I will say, as much as they are inevitable, once they took height, it felt like no one was going to take it from them mini. It was close. I mean, they almost lost the 1v2. I don't want to, down on their parade too much, but they definitely had me on the edge of my seat. Still, though, a very good win. Can't wait to see these guys in the finals.
Yeah, and it can be quite easy to do that when you're a trio. We saw it with Donny's solo clutch in NA last weekend, where the trio just kind of went in one by one, isolated themselves as solos. With the way that Siphon works, the solo player can actually clutch up inside of the storm. So it was very, very close for them. You're absolutely right. But what wasn't close?
自分がこの立場だったらなんかウキウキでやってるだろうな、それは。
They had an incredible day overall. It's been a third place, a second place, and now finally the victory royale. And yeah, I'm really impressed with this team. I think what they're able to do in these end games, the ability to bounce off each other, the ability to have the understanding of each other is really good. And it's interesting how they actually switched over to Vico having that medallion, because almost every single game that I'm seeing from them this season was with Veno with that medallion, with that invisibility coin. So now they've gone back to that sort of strategy. It seems to have worked out very well, and we don't get to see them anymore. Flooded Frogs is now open.
Oh, well, it'll be very interesting to see if ArtSkill's going to be dropping there then as we head to game number 4. But before we can do that, we've got to take a short break. A bientôt.
ジレットラストチャンスメーターコーチングしてくれる人いませんからですし。
Welcome back to FNCS. And Vico, Veno, and FLHIYU have done the inevitable. They've booked themselves a spot via Victory Royale in next weekend's Major 1 finals. Call them the woodcutters because they always be chopping. And I imagine the lobby will be breathing a sigh of relief when we head into game number 4. Levin, look more impressed than that. Please, I beg you, I need this job. I have a family. Now, let's talk about Rescard, Della, and Focus as we take a look at the contenders for the Major 1 finals next week, because we're sending through 10 duos today in Group 3. And you can see that they've climbed into 7th spot. They've gone up a whopping 10 places from a solid performance. And it feels like this is a trio that's really warming up. They've got experience on their side, Levin.
Yeah, I think that, you know, when you look at where they're landing, obviously Rescard was landing at the Roland Blossom split earlier this season when he was playing with Sky and Scroll, so he knows the spot well.
Currently, though, with Skyjump down below.
You know, these guys, you know, I feel like they definitely have a bit of an edge, and so I feel like I'm all over the place right now, Frankie. I'm hearing things I'm not supposed to be hearing. I'm seeing things I shouldn't be seeing. Regardless, I feel like this team is a good team, and so they're sitting comfortably now in that consistency spot. A couple more games, a couple decent zone pulls, and I feel like they could definitely be in the finals.
Yeah, and I think a big element of playing that spot well is something that I spoke about last week with iDrop, Sky, and Scroll. Is just playing Surge well and making sure you can get those damage tags off spawn as effectively as possible, because a lot of the time you have to sort of roam around to try and get those tags, is what that team did so successfully. I think that was sort of the key to them not necessarily having the best start today. Now hot off a 3rd place, 10 eliminations for this trio, really looking strong. And we saw the trio qualify through in iDrop, Sky, and Scroll last week from this drop spot, so it's definitely possible for this team as well.
So that's your prediction then, and I'm interested to see who will win the Battle of the Showdown if you get to see those guys going up against each other.
So you can just keep smiling away.
明日の AGS 勝ったら
But I will say, when it comes to Rescard, like, this is the type of team where, like, if you see them now, like, qualify, right? If you're Arjo, Sky, and Scroll, do you start side-eyeing a little bit? I don't know. That starts to concern me. That's always my fear when I'm, like, looking at some of these different teams. I will say, Skyjump, Shakers, and Mumsy, they're now the #1 team on consistency. And I mean, these guys are a massive threat. And it's another example of a team doing incredibly well. And now with your Queasy, right, who we watched yesterday with Swizzy and Mustache win a game, my oh my, you're gonna be side-eyeing, right? Because this is the biggest threat to that team, right? Mumsy, Skyjump, and Shakers have been the 2nd best team, you'd say. Maybe French fans would argue they've been the best team, right, from Seaport this season. So if these guys keep doing well in qualifying, which I do expect them to do, I thought they were going to win a game at some point. Mumsy definitely felt like he was going to make that happen, and he's really like the spark in this team, right? Because Shakers and Skyjump, very experienced French players we've seen for many seasons. Mumsy's the new console GOAT who's burst onto the scene and giving them incredible firepower.
Yeah, he really has. I mean, that was a really good game from this trio yet again. They had a 4th place in the game previous to that. Now, of course, a 2nd place is going to give them so much firepower. But what I'm noticing here is that none of our trios have actually qualified through via consistency yet. I know yesterday it was around, I think it was 175 points, I think it was, that Pink's trio got to actually qualify them through. And I think in some of the previous times we've actually seen these groups, some teams have already been qualified. They've already been past that threshold. So it's really interesting to see now how the lobby is going to change. Without Veno's trio in the lobby as well, how's Hype going to change, like we spoke about yesterday with Queasy? Lots of questions to be asked.
Well, there's just 2 more games for the lobby to change, so let's head over to our castle to game number 4.
Thanks so much, Frankie, Levin, and Mini Miner. But a pretty big breakdown taking place on some of our teams that are still looking to make their way through that victory around Takata. But consistency definitely looking pretty nice for a lot of those teams at the top.
Yeah, it's looking nice for the teams at the top, but what about the teams at the bottom, Taco? We've got 2 games left to be played out, and at this point in the groups, it's kind of like you got to start thinking to yourself as a trio, maybe we just got to go all out for that victory royale. High ground's going to change a bit more. It's going to be a bit more risky, but luckily enough, we don't have to wait long because game 4 is here.
頑張ってほしい。いや、
And with
こ
the
こまで来
start
たらあれだな、トーマス HD
lobby
か。
number 4 here,
あれ誰だっ
Takada,
け、
and
モングラ
those
ル
teams
サベー
like
ジ
you
頑張ってほしいな。
mentioned, their last result essentially is going to come down to just finding that victory royale. They don't really have any sort of time to waste, but one big game here in this 4th match could also help close that gap pretty significantly.
Luckily enough, though, for the trios that are uncontested, they don't have too many worries about having to kind of play it all or nothing at their drop spot. If you are uncontested, you have more of a chance to kind of play it out through consistency. As with only 5 games, it's quite difficult to make it happen. You have to play quite well every single match. As we look at almost, is this going to be a 50-50 contest up here?
やばいやば。
It's looking like
Yeah,
these teams willing to, you
ラ
know,
ッキー来た。
kind of split the difference here, but
うわ、うわ、おむすり
it's gonna open up
Such
those
a
initial
mystery.
shots. War Snipe, it is an absolute brawl currently, and both of these teams definitely taking pretty significant blows here currently, but Yasen still trying to hold down the fort here.
この人っすね。
Has that Oni shotgun in hand. I was gonna say issue is only 1 shot in the chamber. Teammates helping out, dropping an extra shot, and now the first one connects. We gotta be careful.
じゃあでも、
Take the time to reload. One more needed to finish this engagement off. The mini was almost popped, but found a quick angle, and just like that,
対戦の遅延
Yasin
か。
is gonna be able to take both of his teammates back up without even having to commit to a reboot.
Looked rather unfortunate there for Minor. It looked like he got stuck for a second on that chunk of the map. A little unlucky as far as how he was trying to actually wiggle around there. But Kappa Factory, we've seen this time and time again. Toos knowing that he's got to lead the way here. They're having already lost, sure, Shimoki as well, trying to see if there can maybe be a separate approach. But Toos has more than enough left in the arsenal still, able to take that one out. Now the real concern, will they be third-partied by Reskar and Co, or are they actually going to get a chance to try and play things through from Kappa Kappa?
I mean, it's tough. 18 points going into this match. They have gotten those 3 eliminations, and it's a trio. Shimoki has 2 FNCS wins on Asia. Toos has got an FNCS win. They've got 3 as a trio, and now being so far down today, they really kind of do need that victory royale, so hopefully this is kind of gonna set them up for it in this match.
レオン、見て解除して。
What is big though is that with that last win there for Veno, Vico, and Flexi, Flooded Frogs being fully exposed now for new teams to try and make it their home. And let's keep in mind, they were one of the teams that kept consistently encountering Veno, Vico, and Flexi in that last lobby. Wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe even look to try and make some plays for Shogun's Arena later on.
何してんのこれ。あ、死んでんのか。
So now we take a quick look at what ended up happening in that initial fight, how they got a quick cleanup. But after you get those initial engagements, it kind of gives you a lot of benefits. Not only do you have the freedom to continue with your loot path and, you know, farm up your metal and kind of do all those things without the risk of having to constantly, you know, avoid shots from another trio and not let them steal your loot, but it also kind of gives you that freedom of having that early damage. As we go back to Rickbor and his trio, and once again, an early fight.
Yeah, Fighting Frogs living up to his name right now, though the fight's just shifted a little bit a ways from it, but Zato looking like he might be able to open up this exchange all the further here. For Ark, who's just breaking down some of these pre-existing walls. And Ark as well, having those chili chug splashes means you could opt to use one just to try and be a little bit more aggressive with this exchange, but currently it seems like they might be willing to just wait it out, because eventually, Holly, they're gonna need to rotate in. They can't afford to stay on the outskirts of the map forever.
Yeah, definitely not. Look at Shimoki
タモキ
too.
大丈夫かこれ
He was looking like the aggressor, but as he
死んだし。
slid down the hill,
お、
cracked
普通の
down
さ
to
れた。
about just 20 HP, I'd say, as now both Shimoki and his teammate sure have been knocked down. Toos now is left alone, and although they started off with those 3 strong eliminations, once again, like you called it out, Taco, the third party is gonna come through. Refs guard, focus Della, say, hey, I'm knocking on the door. I saw what happened. Don't think you can get away once again. And just like that, Toos gets taken out, leaving it all up to the last match.
It's one of the most glaring issues that teams that actually opt to drop at Kappa Kappa Factory encounter. And this is a reoccurring theme because even if you think about the success that we've seen from trios like iDrops going out of Rolling Blossoms Farms, very often they would look to try and third-party teams that were fighting over by Kappa Kappa Factory, or just looking for general eliminations, even if teams were uncontested in that position. So it's no surprise to see Resguard doing more or less the same with his trio. Moze, though, spot of hurting currently at Sakura Stadium. Does at least have one of his teammates next to him, but the problem is how split the other might be.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to take fights in the storm when it's the initial zone. It's only 1 damage per second, so you don't really have too much to lose. It's more depending on how far that zone does end up pulling and how long you do end up taking in these engagements. You want to try and clean them up as quickly as possible, but sometimes it's just too hard to do. It's too risky. But it looks like Snazy, Ice, and Vox are not really going to let this trio go anywhere.
This might have been a spot of self-sabotage from Rick Border's trio. They were hoping to get just a really fast few eliminations. Instead, they're going to find themselves on the receiving end currently while they try to make their run for it. Zaro having already been knocked, Snazy, Icy right behind him, Vox as well, and sure enough, with Zaro having been cleanly eliminated, it's now down to just Rick Bor whether or not he's going to even have an opportunity to try and get that reboot card, make the reboot van play, but you're just spending so much time trying to recover how your early game started, Takada. I'd almost anticipate that their mid to end game wouldn't bode much better from this current position. They might just need to look to try and run things back for Lobby 5.
Yeah, speaking about end games too, I didn't even get to see what really happened with Thomas, Tripp, and Fred last game. I mean, they were looking quite good. I think they got a little staggered behind in zone, and then next time I look, it's just a solo trying to run it through. So once again, I mean, the mid game, they've got it down. They have eliminations. They already got full mats, good loot. It's just those end games are not really going their way.
Well, to be fair, we did see them at a point where they made a little bit of a risky call, because we saw Fredoxy, you know, kind of keeping an eye on teams that were playing from inside of the storm, even as late as like 5th, 6th zone, right? And so for them to be willing to spend so much time rotating so much later than the rest of the lobby, getting focused while they were making their entry to zone isn't too surprising. It's just if they're able to build up, because we did see them with a good amount of surge, at least for that time that they had invested. I do think it worked out for them, but
yeah,
now it's just about executing on the end game entirely.
Speaking about executing, it looks like there's another trio that wants to finish this fight up quickly. As now looking to see these kind of engagements, it's finding multiple angles, especially if it's in a POI that has a building where if you even break kind of one of the walls, you might even be able to open up a position where they can't place any builds. So it's taking multiple angles and not going through the same one, unless they're looking for a pre-edit or triple spray. But if that's not the case, it's just find different openings, try and catch one of your opponents off guard, even box them up, anything you can to give yourself the upper hand in this fight. As now the opponents have grouped up, trying to stay together, but they just have to be careful of their surroundings.
We're just continuing to keep seeing these teams that are kind of shambles as far as their material count is concerned. So these stretched out fights definitely not going in their favor. Thomas lost his shields entirely. Fortunately, does still have shield potions to make up for it, but Seaport City proving to be a little bit of a difficult destination so far. Fishing might have been the original intent here from this trio. Instead, they're going to be dealing with Momsy and Skyjump, and they're not the only ones. Just saw Hen and Asa strolling up behind them.
Yeah, good news for the Skyjump, Shakos, and Momsy though. They put themselves up at first place in terms of the consistency leaderboard. They were, what, like bottom middle half into one game, launching themselves into 10th place, and then right after that, launching them into first place in terms of consistency. So with two back-to-back huge matches, you know, it's good to see.
The main thing, though, is that even teams like Skyjump, Shakos, Momsy, despite relatively strong performances, they're still not far enough away from the rest of the leaderboard that they can go for, I'm not going to say reckless abandonment as far as decision making is concerned, but you don't want to get overly aggressive with it and then find yourself compromised heading into our final match of the day, where everything is just going to hinge on a singular match performance. Cammy, Shari, and Seti, also another team that's skirting just outside of that consistency placement on the leaderboard, sitting at around 12th, heading into this fourth match of the day. And many also pointed it out, but this team struggling for Surge in the last game was a bit surprising.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about the leaderboards too, it's interesting as you mentioned. It's like, even though they're number one, Skyjump, Shakos, and Momsy, they only have 149 points. I say only because in previous groups we've had, you know, trios that are close to 200 points, which almost guarantees their qual, right? But seeing that that's not the case here, you know, everybody is still kind of on the line. The points are so close within, you can see 4th through 8th, that anything can still really happen. So they do have to be careful in these last two matches in terms of making it to the late game and getting as many points as possible, as Sandguild is living strong to the meta, fishing up as many spare shield fish and fish in general as possible.
This leaderboard, though, is definitely a big reflecting factor, though, of what everyone has been saying, right? Everyone's considering this as like the group of EU leading into that last chance qualifier or Major 1 finals. And so when you see the points just continue to remain as close-knit as they are, no one's seemingly finding that massive of a points advantage. It is so evident, Takada, that every single one of these teams competing here today has really got to be on their A game. You cannot afford to slip up for even a moment, or you will be fully, like, just taken advantage of in this kind of lobby.
Yeah, we talked about it already, but I mean, in terms of FNCS finals appearances, this is by far the highest out of any of the groups in EU by over 100 finals appearances. So we've talked about it time and time again, but it's very difficult to qualify through this group, and you're definitely deserving of doing so if you end up finding yourself with a spot, as it looked like almost a disengagement from Shogun's Arena from Mongrel, Panzer, and Mr. Savage.
Wise of them to teleport off at Shogun's Arena, though. A team had already set up base here. Congo, though, trying to go for the lurk around play. Bottom ground, and it pays out. Rekfuji, just no chance whatsoever to escape. Now it's Misha as well, trying to see, can find where this last player might have ran off to, but Skylight going to remain hidden for now. I almost expect him to be pretty shocked if they were in that position inside the storm in the first place, but every little bit of placement counts.
Every little bit counts. I mean, just yesterday, Pink and his trio qualified by 1 point on the consistency leaderboard. Literally 1 point, Taco. That's like not even an elimination. You know, it's so crazy how close this can get, especially leading into the final matches of the day. So we'll take a look back at Rift Island. It looks like it's not going to be a contest for the boss here, as you gotta be careful though with 2 players getting cracked. Water Sprite forced to being used.
Artis's team maybe a little bit blessed by the fact that Mongrel and Savage Panzer actually opted to depart from the island, but this is a big part of the reason why it looks like there is a team on a point of elevation that was trying to take some shots towards Rifles, I believe. So they definitely got to monitor exactly how close they are to the edges, because that other team on height, it's definitely a bit of a problem here. Almost disastrous there as well for Fran. Had he been chopped out without that Void TP mask.
Yeah, it's the good news about, you know, this season. Those Oni masks kind of give you an extra safety net, even when you're on high ground. Although one of the matches we did see Vico, Blixie, and Veno chop down height, one of the players still got eliminated, but you kind of want to pre-place those Oni masks to avoid fall damage if you end up getting chopped down. But for Franek, Kaisers, and Dynas here, this is one of the trios that actually has yet to make an FNCS finals appearance. One of only 6 trios in this lobby. So, you know, kind of cool to see them take home a VR today, but it's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, they were definitely dragged into the lion's den with this group as far as calling is concerned, but bringing the focus back towards Refgar's team, actually moving out from a surge base that they've spent a decent chunk of time in, I'd imagine. They just find so much early success with that third-party circumstance at Kappa Kappa Factory. It does allow them, I think, to take a little bit more of a scenic route as far as how long they actually want to wait before rotating into the next zones.
Good news for Focus Della Rescard, though, is being 757 above. Have a lot more flexibility in the choices sometimes you need to make. I don't want to repeat myself, but I do feel like it's important. A lot of the times, it's like, why isn't everyone just, taking the dead side or going the place where the least amount of players are? Like, a lot of the time, especially in these lobbies, it's very difficult to get that damage, and you have to position yourselves in more riskier and harder rotates just to open up options for those tags if you're unable to do it earlier on in the match. So the triple blade typhooning right into the box. Players looking like they're prime Mongrel with the shing sky jump shakeouts and Momsy going absolutely crazy, but I don't think it's paying off, Taco.
Yeah, I mean, sky jump kind of just reminded of the fact that pump shotguns do exist. Shakos, though, with Momsy, they will get the double revive, but Asa, Hen, and DZ putting some really solid pressure up against the likes of that trio, kind of just punishing them for attempting to commit so heavily to the Typhoon Blade play.
Yeah, I respect it, though. Hey, I respect it. We've seen it pay off quite a few times throughout this weekend, so why not add another one to the list? As now, instead of using it to go into the box, they are going to use it to rotate. I would say it's, under the Oni mask, the best mobility item this season. If you're comparing the 2 blades alongside the Oni mask, so it could be worse, but ideally you do want to have one of these masks that Thomas HD is rocking right now on top of his surge base. Great position, to be fair. So much vision on these trios rotating in. Just kind of got to keep it up now.
All Thomas and Prodoxy really need is just a little bit more damage. They can get to right around that 600 to 700 above threshold. That would really allow them to kind of play the next couple of zones with more emphasis towards getting early front side. Unfortunate tags there onto Prodoxy, though. Does lose his shield. Thankfully, though, the other team not close enough to be able to actually capitalize on it and try to key him for it.
Look at this. Asa, Hen, and Andes as well with a quick elimination. Maybe we'll see them put a name for themselves on the board today. Hen being the player with, I believe, well, I mean, he has 3 FNCS titles just himself. You got to be careful here. If you're in a position like that duo we just saw down in the mud. Feet. Insta pickings from Mr. Savage. Quick little walking llama. As now they're going to be able to build out. Keep an eye out. It's there right as Mr. Savage got the elimination. He didn't even go for the loot. He let his teammates loot that as he expanded the builds, knowing he most likely will get spare hard mats and didn't want the focus to close onto them. So doing a great job of building out right after an elimination.
Look at where Shari, Kimmy, and Seti are at. They've got Fordoxy in their sights, saw Tripper nearby in a bush as well, but Fordoxy just paying the ultimate price currently. Another trio though, gonna draw the attention momentarily. That allows Fordoxy to get a little bit closer to the rest of his team. Thomas and Tripper though, they had to give up their old surge base. Well, I shouldn't say had. Likely more so just a decision that they felt more comfortable making at this time because, again, it's just trying to control that front side of zone has proven to be the most successful measure for a lot of our teams here today.
Yeah. Also looking that it's the 7th zone. Ideally, you don't want to rotate late into this one because the next zone is kind of one of those end game zones that's a majority inside of the storm. So especially seeing you got Rift Island in here, I mean, you want to be able to set yourself up quickly into a good position when you see where that storm does end up pulling towards. And I mean, for the trio up here on Shogun's Arena, this is exactly where you want to be with the amount of match that they're going to be able to conserve.
Conservation of mats on top of the fact that this is just so much easier for them to find additional damage. It's not even about the surge threshold because they were already sitting at around 400 over it. It's more so just preventing teams from rotating how they would prefer to. Savage, Mongrel, and Panzer seem to have drawn a little bit more attention that they bargained for. They got another team trying to break into the box currently, and it's Fordoxy, Tripper, Thomas HD on the other side of these walls. That's going to force Savage's trio to send themselves a little bit more forward, retreat back into some earlier builds. They have to be so careful though. They don't realize Vine sitting just on the other side of this peak, trying to open up an angle, but Mongrel does recognize it at the last moment, but pays a price. Shot from behind. Doesn't have a chance to try and recover. Mr. Savage won't even be able to rotate. Shot from the skies the moment that he broke out that Typhoon Blade.
Too focused on getting tags because they were below surge. Pre-edits came through. Honestly, at that point, it's quite difficult to get out of the situation they were in. For Della Focus and Revsguard, though, amazing elevation. Looking at all these trios rotate on in, taking free pickings at them as Cherry, Kami City. They had a rough game 3. Need to make a comeback here now, going into this match in 12th place. They dropped significantly on the leaderboard, so they won a big game to bring themselves back up.
It's like they have a really good amount of builds to work with though. A lot of space currently claimed on that low ground. But it's all about height currently for Revsguard's team and making sure that they can fully control it. Revsguard even opting, drop a little bit more material where it needed. But Della, Focus, Revs, they want to make sure that they stay in control of that front side. They're even going to be the first team to teleport forward, take control of it.
That's that advantage of not having any builds blocking you, right? If you're down below, you have so many teammates surrounding you. Well, not teammates, but opponents surrounding you, that it's very hard to kind of find that triple Oni mask. But when you're on height, you can just instantly throw it. If you do it a little too late, you do have the risk of other players landing on top of you. But for Revsguard, Della, and Focus, it turned out well this time around, and now they're in prime position to look for more pickings.
This is looking really solid currently for Della, Revsguard, and Focus. Now it's all about just suppressing these lower tiers, making sure that they keep spraying everybody underneath them. Thomas HD, the material count not looking good. Fordoxy and Tripper need to come up huge with an elimination securement here if they want to make sure they continue extending their presence on the low ground.
They need this game, Taco. Thomas, Fred, and Trip need to make something happen. It doesn't have to be a VR, but at least the top 3 is what they need to keep their eyes on here as Cherry, Kami, and Seti continue to apply that pressure on trios in the surrounding area. Will they look up for height? Will they continue to play kind of closer to the ground here is what I'm wondering. Good amount of materials, good amount of loot. They have options. That's what's important.
It seems like they're trying to control that secondary height layer. If anything, quick peek back at Revsguard's trio in the skies, and Shari wants to get the shot. Successful measures as well. Huge fall damage going to get chunked out of Focus and Della even, and that's going to be Shari's green light. He's already starting to crank up, trying to see if they can reestablish control here, and sure enough, Kami going to be the first to claim on this height take.
36 builds for Cammy. It's all wood, no hard mats, but it might just be enough. They have to be careful though. Another trio down below. Second line looking for shots. They quickly react though, applying pressure, showing their dominance up above, saying we're a full trio. Be careful if you want to contest us. As now all they gotta do is stay ahead.
That is absolutely tragic though for Della, Focus, and Revscar. Revscar even forced the low ground and gets picked off by Thomas HD's team in the process. A lot of teams though still just managing to scrape by here in our lower layers. Prodoxy, Thomas, Tripburn trying to stake out some unregistered terrain. Instead, they're going to realize Artis's team is the one currently in control of frontside low. Thomas pulling back towards backside of zone. He's got no material left. He has to find a refresh. He has to find a lifeline, but it's not going to connect.
They go down. Is it going to be enough to push themselves? Time will tell, but Cammy Seti Cherry still on the left. Della now left as a duo alongside Focus. Only 7 builds to work with. It jumps into an opponent's box. Doesn't even realize it as he goes down and Focus now left alone.
Just goes to show how disorienting things can truly become when you aren't in control of this high ground layer. All the while though, Shari having the time of his life up above with Cammy and Seti. And the way that the zone is about to pull over a hill, they're going to make sure that they even connect their builds to it. These teams trying to scramble up the elevation shift. Comeback with a nice elimination onto Artis. Buying himself a little bit more time, but tries to go up. Should immediately meet Cammy, Shari, Seti if he's not careful.
Still 10 players up. So much of the lobby is staying strong, even with this difficult zone. But Comic has lost his teammate, left alone now. Mixon trying to crawl up. All these players doing what they can to get on up. And in the meantime, it's Cammy up above. It's Cherry and Seti, but Cammy's gone down. Now left as a duo. Where's the last player? Can they hit the shot? Cryfalls gets taken out. Where's the last one?
And the last one currently still setting up on the builds they had above. A chop up to Goodinbury, and as he comes falling down, Shari and Seti continue to ascend here. A big win. Polska Gudam in this fourth lobby of the day, Takata, and they'll be all the happier for it.
Oh yeah, you can tell the vibes are up for this trio. I mean, coming from the last match, where they're one of the first trios to get eliminated. A bit of a heartbreak as they got bumped down the leaderboard, but just in one match, second to last game of the day, they secure the victory royale. They secure their deserved spot in the major finals, and now we just get to watch it play out.
Let's be so real though, it would be weird to not see Cammy and Seti alongside Shari in the Major 1 finals. We've got some really big teams kind of setting themselves up and preparing for what comes next here at Takata. It's a pretty exciting moment.
I'm excited. I'm sure a lot of the fans rooting on Cammy, Seti, Cherry are excited, but I also know my desk is excited. So Frankie, Levin, Mini, what you got?
We have got some very happy analysts. I'm very happy too. As Vico, Veno, and Flixie left us in game number 3, only Mini Minor, Cammy, Seti, and Cherry were free to take the high ground and the victory royale.
Yeah, they benefited off of Vico, Veno, and Flixie no longer being in the game. I remember early in that third game, Vico, Veno, and Flixie, they're actually attacking the team off spawn. They actually rotated so far over to go and eliminate them, and that was their downfall there. And even when it comes to endgame, they're not on height. They have this ability just to take height like we know that they can, Levin. They have it in their tank, and you asked me before, Frank, will they be able to control, or will they be able to just keep out the consistency? And I said they'll just make it to these end games. They'll continue to do it, and if they find a good position to take height and win the game, then they will. And that's exactly what's happened, Levin. Pretty good game.
Yeah, look how aggressive creative plays and all, you know, you saw City with, you know, tarping out their mats, being stacked on mats, not needing refreshes too much, but when they need it, with 5 limbs on the game, absolutely mental. I mean, these guys are a team many people were expecting to get to the finals. They finally got the job done here, and yeah, I mean, they'll be watching, waiting in the wings, seeing if anyone will challenge them at the Lost Lake.
Well, this trio's era, I heard a lot of people saying, yeah, the really experienced trios, really experienced players, they are the most consistent, they are the most likely to win, and I feel like it's brought on this new era of clean,
タイヤの今のはごめん。
なんて言ったの？
クラブトンナを掘り返した。ごめん。
いいよ。
そういうノリだった。出しちゃダメだよ。
出せよ。
出していいんだ。
じゃあ、さ、俺明日言われない？妖精とんな、精霊とんな
言われたかも。
もうあれは嫌な思い出ですね。
成長した？
成長もくともないだろ、あれに関しては。
俺も見て。
うん？はい。
何点？
まだ入ってきた。
ああ、でも。
ただ軽くなって感じするんだよね、結構。なんか、気のせいかわからんけど。
てか、それさ、FPS 表示オフにしたらもっと軽くなるよ。
本当に？
そうだよ。FPS 表示してるからもういいんだよ。
あ、そういうこと？
タイヤの
この左上は？
うん。
左上も？
ん？
左上、このナッキングとか？
いや、それは出してる。あと、オーバーレイ消したら 30fps ぐらい変わった。
どれだ、オーバーレイって。
ディスコードの。
そっちかい。
まあ、俺は限界 PC だからそれしてるだけで。
ゲーム中のオーバーレイを有効化したやつ？
そう、それオフにしたらめっちゃ軽くなった、俺は。
両一とかさ、一昨日とか TikTok ライブしててさ、
リロードしよう。
そう、いや違う、普通のランクで、あと残り2袋したら配信やめるみたいな。こういうな、2袋で寸前で2回落下した。
なんでなさし
コーギー投げた。2回。
今、よく聞き取れたね。
俺だけ数字ばかりしてる。
いや、なんて言ってるの？マジだった。そう。
あ、そういうこと？コーギー投げたらどうしてるの？
なんて言ってるのかマジわかんないよ。
コーギー？
すごい。やっぱ兄弟は違うな。いいな、ベストデュオだ。
組む？もう一人俺と。
太郎くんとラッキーじゃん。
俺と太郎くんとヒューでいいんじゃない？あるよ。
チームどかた。
チームどかた。
誰抜けた？
Oscar Guru, my friends, welcome back to FNCS, where
レオン
Cami
さん
Seti
って誰？
Cherry
俺わ
took
かんないん
game
だよ。
number 4.
タイヤの？
Just one more
来週から俺職人だよ。
何金？
which 10 trios from group number 3 will be making it
いや、わ
through
か
to
んない。
next weekend's major one
ヒーさん。
finals. Now, it will be
募集
very
見てくだ
interesting
さ
to look at the
い。
leaderboard.
なんかアミはなんか
Five
どん
of
な
our
狂
trios
ってんのこれ。
do get through from consistency. So you've got
や
your
ばい
5 golden tickets from the victory royales. There's one of those left to take. And then if you cast your eyes from 5 downwards
なんかえぐいの
on
送っ
the
てるアミヤ。
standings, these
なんか
are
う
the
ちを連呼
trios
してる
that
やつ。
really want to keep their spot
まあ、
in
皆
the
さんさっ
top
きの
10 of
やつあ
their
ったから
for
な、
their
多分
place
狂っちゃ
next
ったん
week.
じ
And
ゃない？
Combat, Blacker and Mixon, they're making
え、
a
タイヤさん
really
マ
good
ジさ
show
俺
of it.
実践でこれ
Another
したいん
strong
だよね。
finish for them in game 4-11.
ってこと？
Yeah, I feel like if you were going to try and predict who's going to win this last game, you'd probably put them way up there. They're making it into these end games so deep every single time. You know, again, it's just that final win condition that's been missing.
俺あれしたいな、最近の夢は。右にこう、右にさ、壁置いて、屋根置いて、先読みして、
あ、そういうこと？
そう、この後に、この、そうそうそう、それ。それで、100当てて、もうワンボックス囲んで、でででそうなの？無理。いやもう、だから、もう、それなら引退する。それならさすがに、引退。
引退案件なんだ、それは。
and fix in time for next weekend, Levin?
俺、タイヤのさんのこと知ったのしたやつ見せたい。タイヤさん、来シーズン組むラッキーって、来シーズン組むって言って。
来シーズン組むかタイヤの。
引退する。
だから、俺とヤー君とタイヤのでいいんじゃない？
まあ、ヒエもラッキーも変わらんか。
タイヤさんって、これ、シットのしたやつ、これ、うまいかなわかんないけど。
本当やだ、まだゲーム。
なんでアットにやねん、せめてアット1にしてくれ。それな。俺何もしてない。
いやいや、普通に組んでよ。俺が言うと組む。トーマスはリクルーするよ。サベージはサベージ。どうなのサベージ。
何位で突破
15
か。
リクルー5パーティー。
And the other team that were in there as well, Mongrel, I should say. I was trying to think who it was. Yeah, massive, huge game for Thomas HD. I mean, I said at the beginning of the show that this is a team that has sort of switch drops a little bit in some of their divisional finals. They might go ahead and do that now in the final game. I just don't think it's working out for them there at Brutal Boxcars 11. They have been having some games, so there hasn't been like an off-spawn situation where they're just going down early on, but they haven't been able to make it into that upper echelon of placements. So for them right now, I think it's a win in your own situation.
ギリギリギリギリ落ちてる。
けどまだ取れる可能性はある？それを聞きなかった。あ、ならよかった。それを聞きたかったけどちょっとミスった。こういう時にいくらできるのがプロだから。
would be cataclysmic.
Is it a Danish dream to far 11?
I hope not. You know, I got a lot of Danish friends that will be hoping that, you know, they can get it done in this game, but it's not looked good, especially just how they've been playing. You wouldn't even, you know, really consider them maybe for last chance of how difficult it's going to be. So they need to get it done here now.
We've seen Mr. Savage, Mongrel and Panzer have a spot within the top 10 today so far, but now they are outside of it. They're going to be feeling particularly insecure because they have come close to it. The Mini Miner, they don't want to be up for the last chance qualifier. Do you think they can do it?
Yeah, I definitely think they can. I think they have the potential to in that trio. I think they need all of the power that they have inside of that trio to win this last game, because realistically, that's what they need to do. They've only managed one top 10 that 5th place in the first game, so they have it in their locker to make it to that stage of the game. Now, though, the pressure's going to be on so much more for these guys, because I think a lot of people would be expecting them to qualify for the grand or through the major finals right there, because they have such a good draw, they have such a good plan, and it's all about executing it right now.
I'm really hoping they can get it done. You know, at heart, I'm a Mongrel fan, I'm a Savage fan, I'm a fan of Panzer as well. Props to Panzer. Spam the cabbage to, you know, support Savage or whatever they say nowadays. You know, you better be spamming all the fans right now.
All right, well, cabbages all around as we head back to our casters, Takata and the best taco for game number 5.
Thank you, Frankie. I'm nervous, Taco. Like, I'm actually feeling stressed out. The hairs are starting to stick up on my hand. It's the last game of the final group for this FNCS. After this, all that's left is last chance and major finals. There's a lot of trios on the borderline of qualifying. Some that just have to keep it up in terms of consistency. Taco, who do you think's winning this game?
Look, we're cutting it way too close for that to even be a decisive factor. Comeback Baja and Mixon were looking really solid, but the last lobby, it's really anybody's game, especially some teams who need it. So let's get into the action.
It is time to lock in. It all comes down to this. We've got fans from all over the world now supporting their trio. We have Mongrel, Mr. Savage, Panzer in 14th place at 109 points. We have Thomas HD from Global Championships going head-to-head against Peter Bar, now on the borderline of not qualifying. 17th place. They might either make Victory Royale, or who knows, top 2 with enough eliminations will be enough. It's going to be hard to tell, but Taco, it all comes down to this.
It certainly does, but one team that definitely caught my eye at least during that secondary page flip, was
まあ現場に出るってこ
going
と
to。be Gutenberg Moneymakers team because they jumped up 11 placements
だから
in performance
1日1回100ドルアーミングできるか
putting
感覚。
themselves into 12th on
仕
that
事始めたら。
leaderboard, and so they're substantially
でかくね
closer. I know that we've got a lot of action taking place here at Big Ben Tunnel, but for both of these trios, they desperately need a victory royale if they want to find themselves having a sliver of a chance at making it through to the Major 1 finals. And so far, this
まあ
battle
ね、
has
頑張るよ。
just
それやっ
kind of
と
worked
かない
against
と
both
さ、
teams.
Yeah, but that victory royale, it starts somewhere, Taco, and it starts in whoever ends up winning this early game
頑張っとかないと。
engagement. It looks like Yasin and Siren now might even be
頑張
able
る
to double pick up their teammate here.
俺その気持ちが大事ってことに気づいた。頑張ろうって思う気持
There's
ちが。
only one opponent left as a solo trying to do what he can to get out here. Gonna take the
だから仕
body.
事する。
And just like that, it looks like they might have secured it.
その日仕事一日しんどくても頑張っ
Such a
たら
sad
さ、
scene for Warsnipe, just kind of waiting
その日に満足いく結果が出るやん。
for that knocked bar to run out into a full elimination.
俺の仕事
The problem,
形
too,
と
is
し
that
て一生
where
残る
his
し、
body is
人ん
at,
ちとか
recovering
建物
that
の
reboot
中。
card's not going to be easy, depending on how long the trio actually decides to stick around. All things considered, Takada, when you know that you're staking
俺
it all
豆
on
まき
this
の豆
final
食ってる
lobby,
今。
なんか
for some of
ちょっ
these
と笑わせないで
teams,
くんね。
that mentality of, hey,
終わったよ
we're
もう
just going to stop you in the process.
なんで
Definitely come
い
into
やいやも
effect.
う
Yeah.
その日終わってるよ。
Like you said, especially in this last
負けに
game,
すん
you
なよ。
know, it's we've talked about pressure, we've talked about nerves. This is the most stacked group for EU, but even then, I'm sure a lot of these trios, they got to be feeling something. They got to be feeling something in this last match. It's impossible to not. As we look at Misha now, who is at night shift. In an
これ
early
見てた
game
この
battle.
ID なんか競技で見たことないですか競技生で。この
Yeah, the
ID。
big problem, though, is that Kengu's already being eliminated fully, and Lyric understanding that Misha just up above
この
Rash as well from a separate direction.
なんか
Gonna try and see if they
調
can
べ
get
てみ
another
てやる
reason view side jump up. Gets the job done, but it's a pretty solid job.
このミ
Recovering
ーアなんと
Misha
か
even finding some huge
俺が
tags
言う
back.
言うやつを言ってくんね。
It's gonna
いや豆食ってるから待って。
this enemy trio to kind of just wait
Look at
a
that.
minute. They're
Full
gonna
back.
have to make sure that they are healthy enough to continue this fight.
Yeah, we've talked about how to play as the aggressors, you know, looking for different angles, trying to kind of find
Nani,
different
dole,
openings.
dole.
But when you're playing defensive,
Yo.
like Rash
Oh.
and Lyrics,
M.
you kind of know
Almost
that
there.
some of the players will be a bit split from the team. And
M.
catch them off guard, all jump at them playing
Aye.
together, maybe even
Emoji.
box them up and find one pick like that. It's the start of turning around
Oh,
a mid-game fight like this, and that's exactly what they did to come out on top here. So great job playing defensively, great job finding a pick. It's gonna help them continue on forwards. I think I saw someone that
Eh, utta?
Eh, bye, nani?
just
え
Panzer.
1
just
数
sit
字
on
の
the boat. No, was he
あ、
alone?
1?
で小
Oh,
文字
you're
で
talking about
YA
for right here. I was referencing Panzer kind
Oh,
of
YA.
scenes towards
H.
Night Shift
Oh,
Forest
right.
there.
1.
Spotted out
LOL.
probably. That elimination feed lighting up. Also,
Ori.
heard the shots.
Ori.
Recognize a solid opportunity to try get that third party action going. But yeah, on the far north side of the map, Icy, Vox, Daisy, still dealing with the likes of
878.
Hench
なんか
Trio.
そうだよね。なんか見
Also
たことあ
still
ったもん。
lurking nearby potentially, but it has been a tough day for some of our teams.
つなげって
Flying
一
out of
つ
the
で。
map, but Rescar, this is a surprise. Strolled all the way into Hopeful Heights, and instead, this might just be their demise. Della forced to retreat. Can't afford to stick around for much longer. But whether or not Shimoki actually lets this one
ゼロビルド
happen
帰ってき
is
てほ
another
しいんだけど。
story entirely. Shimoki, though,
OG ならある。
blasted from a completely different
大会
approach.
大会。
Another team on the
OG な
horizon
らある
just
よ。
spotting the perfect
ゼロビルド
opportunity
キャッシ
to
ュ
cry false in the
いやキャッ
game.
シュはないけど。
And they just
キャッシュが
found
帰ってきて
a
ほしい。
perfect
ヒューとまた出たいゼロビルドキャッ
opportunity
シ
to
ュ。
close in on.
Yeah, and two's Shimoki.
入れてくるからな、
And
こい
sure,
つ。
this is a
普通
trio
に。
that I would say needs the victory
俺は
round to qualify
お前も
in
切れ
this
てくれ。
last match. So
お前
now that they've gotten
え、
those
ヒュー、
three
俺とさ、
eliminations,
俺とさ、ヤークの大
hopefully,
会
you know,
さ、
can find a
ヒュー完
reboot
成してない
onto
と俺ら
Shimoki.
す
This
ぐ
could
喧
be
嘩になってたくらい。
the match to close it out.
俺ら意見
One
食い違いすぎて
big
すぐ喧嘩になる。
positive for Revscar is the fact that they were sitting at around 180 points leading into this, so no.
けど一番最後に出た大会さ、一緒に
That's one
喧
of
嘩にな
our
ってないよ
teams
ね。
that definitely needed
ミックスアッ
a
プマンです
victory
か
royale,
じゃあゼロビルか、最
and
後。
the sights are not looking good currently. Not sure if
け
Asa's
ど
still
キーマン
hanging
に変え
about
てからさ、
somewhere, Dakota, but the fact of the matter is,
見てわかるぐらい
having
強
been taken out,
強さ変わったよ
the
ね。
leader
うん。
of that
パッチがどんだけ向いてなかったか
now,
わかるわ、俺。
it's just gonna be a matter of time
楽しいキーマン
for them
振
to
るの
figure
がした
out
い
if。it's gonna be the last chance qualifier or not, but Fox get a chance to
つい
look
てこない
back and
感
see
度
what
が。
went wrong here for Hen
パッと
and Andy.
うん、ご両親になりすぎてさ、
It's
あ、
just
それ
some
取った時
really
は勝てると思
well
ってたか
connected
らさ、俺。
shots coming out of Icy's trio.
Yeah, they don't have any shield though, so I guess maybe they were
え、
running
この
out
さ、
from a
海外の
third-party
さ、
engagement or I
こ
don't
の
know,
ヒー
something
ト
happened
観
that
戦
caused
じゃ
them
ん。
to just not have
なんかバチバチのところない
resources
の
to take a fight this early on. Maybe it's
アジア
even
みたいにさ、
Thomas's trio here.
そんなない。
No elims on the board.
話題のランドマ
Got a
ー
bit
ク
of
ないん
damage
だ。
there at least.
Thomas
決
knows
勝行
though
ったらなんか
that
強気取れそうじゃねえなんか。
basically
あ
it's
んまなん
all
か
or
なんていうか。
nothing in this last lobby for them
One
to
jump.
not immediately qual into the major
いや、
one
海外の
after
さ
that、global
バチバチのところ
championship
こそおもろい
performance.
もんなくね。
It would definitely be pretty
アジア控えめやん、だっ
devastating
て。
to witness Takata.
Oh.
And for Thomas,
だから
it just
ある
keeps
かな
getting
と思って。
行かれ
worse.
た。
Frodoxy, Tripper,
逃げろ、逃げろ、逃げろ、逃げろ。
with no
それ
shield.
それ逃げろ
Frodoxy even just hoping that he can escape. Trippern's not going to be able to clutch it out this time.
ああ、まあ。
And it's a story yet
これ取ってほしい、
again
トマ
of the exclusive fate of this trio
これ
resting
仲間強い
on
人
one member.
強いけど。
Frodoxy knows that Rick Bohr, they can choose to try and sit at
待た
that
れるんじゃね
leading
リ
spot
ブ
for a
か。
while
勘
if they
違いこれ。
want.
Yeah, everything is on the line for this trio right
Antigua.
now. For Doxy's the last one up. I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to reiterate it. Literally, we had Thomas HD, the most
落
successful
とす気満々のやつだったら
player
待た
to
れる
take
よね。
home one of these major championships. I mean, even in the global championship, kind of being the main player going against Peterbot, battling it out to now not even qualifying through Major 1. It would be tough. They have last chance, and they still have Frodoxy up in this match. So if a miracle can come through, it's gonna be from the trio. We'll have to see if it does end up happening. On the other hand, though, Savage, they're not qualified yet either. Following closely behind where Thomas HD was on the leaderboard. They're just on that borderline, close to qualifying in 14th place. They're gonna need a big game here.
And Panzer's got to be real
こん
careful
ぐらいの時に勝ってほ
where
しい
he
ね。
goes next because his shield's definitely looking a little bit rough there, but fortunately for Mongrel's team, it looks like Skylight and Co are no longer interested in this fight. They're gonna opt to try and avoid Onimask away from that situation taking place at Lost Lake. That might put Savage's team into a position where they could get some additional tags while that team is looking to escape, and that could put them for openings as far as keying for Nox or eliminations is concerned. Still, it's evident that they really want to establish their surge early on.
Yeah. Levin was talking about it. Blaha mixing comeback. I mean, you can look at Blaha on top of the bridge, just taking pop shots at anybody that comes at the site.
Could also be fishing from up there. Keep in mind, you can actually fish from the top
いや、
of
これ、エペどうなっ
Shattered
た
Span. Even if you're blacked up, you just got to pay a little bit closer
全
attention
然
to
ダメだった。
the animation of that fishing rod itself.
ダイヤ3
And
たま、ダイヤ
Blaha as well. This is
Daia
quite
4
the scenes for this team
900
though,
ポイントぐらい
on
で
the
止まっ
bridge.
た。
自力でさ、ダイヤ3踏んでから
Look
さ
at、their fishing rods. Just take a look.
やってない。
Well, they have that
ダイヤ4に
opportunity
かけて落と
as
して。
redemption.
うん
Thomas
来シーズ
HD,
ン
the
に
most
ダイヤスプレッドキャリーしてって言っ
finals
たらいいよって。
appearances playing out today.
その通りで回した
Most second place finishes
や
on
けやろうね
EU.。
いいよ。
Uh-oh.
Now Reba
来
is back
来
in,
シーズ
but
ン
it
俺
looks
の
like the
俺の
trio
時代だから
spotted them off. Now this could be a
大人
pro or a con,
じゃあ
Taco.
エ
If
ペ
they do end up battling against this trio and winning that fight,
太陽
that's
の
a
見
quick
た
refresh to put them back in the game.
何
But the issue is they
いた
don't
やん。
have the
見
advantage in
た
terms of
来シーズ
shield
ンのエペの
materials.
ト
They
レー
have
ラー。
nothing
見てよ。
to
Yeah, I was
kind
gonna
of
say.
えぐいよね。SMG 最強になる。
winning one of these battles. But if they do
まあ
it,
AR かな
it might just be
で、あ、
enough.
そう。
来年とか帰ってくるんだ。
Fire
99とかが強くなる。あとアンミがやばいらしい。
ネメシス
ネメシスと持たないもん、エルスターか。
そうやん。ラッキー、ネメシスかエルスターと持たない。
でもそれが最強になるからな。
Punish Freddy just been rebooted, just not healthy enough, and that is going to force for Doxy to have to back off here because they know that they're going to have to make a reboot play yet again. They can't continue to draw more attention. It's also probably been communicated that Trevor wasn't allowed to buy Burgle Rush. It's Savage and Mongrel that are rolling into flooded frogs now, trying to take advantage of what they heard coming out of that reboot.
Looking like sharks. Smell a bit of their prey now as they get closer to Thomas and Fred here. They heard the shots come through. They saw the knock on the feed. They know they need a big match to close this one out. A top 10, top 7, even top 6 might not be enough. Mr. Savage and Panzer. They need
all I'm gonna say is that if Thomas, HD, Tripper, and Frodoxy managed to turn this game around, that is beyond a miracle run. My man is sitting there with 12 bandages, hoping to stay hidden long enough. And not only that, but you also have to picture Storm Sickness. Even if that trio were to recover right now, get some decent loot, they can't really in the long term to try and play Storm like some of these other teams might be able to do. So they're gonna have to be a lot more cautious from this point forward, and they still have to be concerned about the fact that, you know, Mongrel, Panzer Savage, if you get one elimination, you know that team's gonna keep trying to get that reboot going, right? So why not stick around a little bit longer?
Yeah, I mean, the good news, I guess, kind of good news, is if they do end up getting that reboot and making it back to zone, it's not really a heal-off meta, so in the late game, Storm Sickness won't matter as much to them, as they ultimately do have their eyes on that, you know, prize victory royale. And it's gonna be a long journey, a marathon for them to make it that far, but, you know, it's possible. It's difficult, but it's definitely possible.
On a happier note, though, team's over by Shogun's Arena, looking to stake their claim, be the ones to claim that Shogun X medallion. Frozy kind of just staring up currently at where Artis is positioned, trying to make sure that they establish a good perimeter around. They know that Shimoki and Toos are the ones currently up at the top, but that doesn't mean that Artis, Cryfalls, and Frozy can't look for some good surge damage from underneath that Shogun's Arena.
Just looking around on the mini-map. Not too many trios in this side of the map, to be fair, already. But I guess the good news is the trios that are here hopefully have kind of done a good amount of damage so far, where they don't have to be on more of a congested side. Looking back, on the contrary, though, players inside the zone still. With a couple of eliminations to their name. Look at them get a third now and wipe the full trio. Good job there.
Definitely catching some signs of life from teams outside of that higher end of the leaderboard. And hey, better late than never. Everybody's got to have a starting point somewhere, but one team that definitely started to kind of get their catalyst movement in that fourth lobby, Clownsky, Gudenbreed, and Maker. Again, jumping 11 on the leaderboard to put themselves in 12th position, leading into this final lobby Takata. And not only that, but Clownsky, someone with a lot of experience in terms of these reboot style formats. I mean, 81 appearances. And with that in mind, I think that when you especially get down to the last lobbies, the final moments, it can be very easy for panic to kind of become a dictating measure of how your game goes. But Clownsky's someone that I think can really help guide his team through that.
100%.
それはまたトライアルやるの？トライアル。
いや、トライアルやんないと思う。あ、トライアルやんないと思う。
15大会以上出てないと出れないとかある？
あるっしょ、多分。
俺出れないかも。
Look back at Trip.
あ、大丈夫か、俺出てる、半年。
HD?
ディビジョン1行ってる人はどうなんの？
But like you said, they're yet to get
ディビジョン
back
1
in
行ってる
zone.
人もうディビジョン1
Savage
ってない。
and Panzer are still right.
俺バイト始まるからさ、
Oh my, this is gonna be so
バイト
tough.
始めたらさ、スクリーン
あ、ヒー TikTok ライブしてんの？
The fact that they're taking the train
ん？
to just
ポンちゃんのやつね。
continue moving
いや違う、
themselves.
それプラスで普通にバイト始めた
I
んだ
know
よ。
they can hear
始
these
め
shots being
そう。
fired. They're gonna be part of the
始めた
action
っていうか、
even. Shooting from the
昨日
train,
告ってき
Panzer,
て、
Savage, Mongrel. And a
カラ
little
オ
bit
ケ
of
バイト。
trouble here. But Panzer is gonna recognize the
なん
fact,
で？
hey, there's a team just chilling on the train currently, getting a fast track ticket
その
into zone.
店長
Still,
と
Thomas
喋った
Tripper, they
時に
jumped
店
off
長
momentarily. It
が
seems
バロ
like
し
they
て
wanted
て
the fight. But now it's gonna be Panzer.
ランク
Might
聞か
actually
れ
find
て
tables turned on him.
4通ですって言ったらね、ご確認してくれた。で、競技のありがとうございます。競技の日程も組んでくれてバイトで、なんか発売とに行って、
神だろ。
夜中か昼どっちかにした。それだったらスクリーム終わった後でもバイト行けるし、夜中から。
Taking that porta potty though. I think that's might have been
あれ、俺もう
the reason why
13しかね。
once Fordoxy Thompson didn't realize that
それも全部ヒースな黒。
we're definitely too exposed
TikTok ライブ
to
で
the train.
2000円稼いだのに、3日で。
Wanted to see if they could get outside of that tunnel
踊ってよ、や
area.
りラフィーダンス。
Now
いいよ、任せ
Fordoxy,
る。横入れから行くで。
he might have mats, but he is burning through them quickly because of
俺ラッキーにめっちゃ落としてなるんだよね、TikTok で。
relentless
何？
Tripper and
なんか
so
中国ダンスみたいなのあるんだ
separated
よ。
as well.
ああ、
シャオシャオって言いたいってこと？
違う。
俺のことシャオシャオって言ってんの？
違う。あるんだよ。一瞬ちゃうんって、あんちゃうんってなんちゃうんって。
それね。
シャオシャオじゃねそれ。
違うって。わからんけど。
手を右、左、右。
で、ぐるぐるって湧いて。
ぐるぐる。
ポイってする。
じゃあ、後で踊ってあげるよ。最初やった後で。
軸いいやつね。真ん中を軸にして、こう、綺麗な。
めっちゃぐるぐるなる。
もう一個携帯で。
Thomas finally see them just behind where Fordoxy and Tripper are currently at.
思えるところから始めない
The
とい
fact
けない。
that Fordoxy has managed to maintain his team to being above that search threshold is such a long way for this trio right now, but still have to be very careful with how they actually choose to enter zone. Teams that are already positioned well before them,
画面出てくれ。
much better opportunities to just look back and spray
Come in,
some of
look at
these later stragglers.
I don't know how they made it this far, to be fully honest, Taco. From the early games that Fred, Thomas, and Trip have had to go through, they are now just 84 below, down to 30. If anybody's gonna connect shots to get themselves above Surge, it's gonna be Thomas HD with the aim he's known for. But all the other trios
明日スクリームやるでしょ？あ、AGS やるでしょ？
For the team's issue is it's not even
じゃあ、
fully in the
もう
zone.
今からランクやるしかないの。
ことな？
やっべ。
Just looks like Fordoxy was running on fumes.
いや、マジ頼む。今、ダイヤ1ね。 しかも、俺4日で6000盛りして、
笑え。
4日でしてるから、4日でダイヤ1から、ダイヤ4からダイヤ1来てるの。
やば、見せて、タイヤのゴーライブ。
いや、やる人を今。ソランクしてもいいんだよね。ソランクで今日1200盛りできた。
For both Thomas's team
Can you
and
see more?
Savages because
じゃあさ、タイヤの
前晴れることしてる気。
俺とエイペックス一回やってみるときさ、ヤー君と一緒にやろう。
いいよ。
俺らダイヤ4まで行ってやろう。俺自力でダイヤ3行っちゃう。
ならいいよ。ランクリセットもうされるやん、開幕。
開幕ランクやろう。
開幕ランクはいいや。開幕ランクはめんどくさいな。
ダイヤ行ったらやる。
開幕ランクしてもいい。まあそうだな、でも開幕ランクしたらフォートナイトがおろそかになってしまう。それだけは嫌だ。
だから、フォートナイトのあれが落ち着いてからでいいよ。長い。俺ソロであげ
チャンスメジャー終わったらかな。
いや、どうもやばい。
俺名前さ、解明したいんだよね。
Thomas just needs to survive at this point if they want to have any hopes. Fortunately enough,
後ろやばい。頑張れ。
トリッピー頑張れ。
Only 13 He just needs one shot off to win, but he doesn't connect. The misses happen. Thomas HD, Tripper, and
こいつ生存能力やばすぎだろ。
be spectators on the sideline for
ずっとこの人言ってない？
This poor man just left to try and carry through, but the whole lobby looking back at where you're currently
ずっとこの人が言ってるくない？
This is going to be a really tough entrance.
For Doxy and the Dream, I need to keep my eyes
マジ頑張れ。
on, Mr. Savage,
名前わかんないけど。
Mongrel, and Panzer that I believe are still up as a trio, also on the borderline.
はい、皆さんこんばんは。
It's able to make something happen here, but
太陽の配信
this
中も
is
し
going
て
to be a match. Still a good amount of trios out.
俺の講義で風邪薬買っ
See
て。
them just below. Savage, Panzer, Mongrel.
PS あるか
Big elimination onto Chris. But
海洋がさ、先にライブしてるって言ってくれたらさ、
Savage has an ample amount of
同じ
material to try and work with. Transpeed
こういうのに
gonna
来たらくればいい。
join that elimination
クジラ欲しい
tally
クジラ
count
負
here.
けていいっす
欲張んな。
クジラの遠吠えみたいな。
欲張んな。
6000円の。 TikTok ユニバースでもいいよ。
なめんな。
To collect another couple of nice elim refreshes.
でも友達の女の子が1日で4
Done
万
a
くれ
great
る
job
ライブ。
playing kind of from shambles on the edge of zone to making their way to the late
す
game.
ごいよね、ほんま
It's
に。
the setup
あの鹿の子の子の子本したの
Savage
か
and
さ、
Panzer
女の声で
need
さ、女の写真
to
使って
qualify
さ
themselves to the major finals.
いけ
8th
る。
zone.
はい、ナミ
As
さん
right
ギ
now,
フトあり
shortly
が
we're
と
gonna
う。
start moving zones.
おば
This is
さん
where
や。
it all
何
matters
々ちゃん。
most.
おばやん、おば。
Snazy's
お前誰
team
がお前。
though, just trying to get some good peeks. They see Tooses
何
under a lot of pressure from both sides of the lobby.
あ
But
ー、
the team on
パ
height
ス、
is going to be the
あ
real
ー、パ
threat
ス、
there.
あ
For
パ
Doxy still managing to just
ス、
skirt
あパ
around,
ス、あ
staying alive. Zero shield though. Has to hope that he can find a
なんかいい
solo pickoff here. And the mixture of all this chaos taking place in the low grounds. Just tucked
これ
away,
生きてんのえぐい。
hoping that he
面
can
白い
get
ね。
all the more higher as far as placements are concerned.
One
一人で勝ったら感動する。
singular dream for Doxy here. As
え
unfortunately, it is going to be Mr.
え、
Savage
じゃあもう
that
そ
takes
もそ
him
も終わ
out.
り
It's all up
いや、ラストチ
for
ャン
the
スメ
last
ジャ
chance
ーで
major now for Thomas HD in this trio, but we continue on to finish this
Yeah,
game now.
するでしょ。
Mongrel, Mr. Savage, Panzer are going to be the ones on the borderline that are getting closer and closer.
俺信じ
Taking
とる
on
け
that VR, but Vox has lost his teammate. It's Ice that goes down, left alone as a duo with Snazy.
信じと
What
ます
initially looked like it was a somewhat promising spot there for Snazy. Now he's just trying to chase down, but the movement gonna work against him. That's a wall kick. I didn't necessarily desire high ground though.
え、来た来たお願いお願いお願い
To the
お願
top
い
here.
That
Savage, Panzer,
Oh my
and
God.
Mongrel now find themselves in the driver's seat.
え、えぐ
for height.
大
I
量に
can
今からやる
feel
人
the
プレデターだ
excitement from the fans right now.
これ
As
サベージの洗い
Mongrel,
方
Mr. Savage and Panzer are looking like they're holding clean onto the high ground. All it
逆に
takes
太陽のせこいはなんかプレデターの
will the zone pull towards them.
いや、プレデターやる方が勝てないよ。
All they have to do is maintain this height.
だって今チーターしかいないんだもん。
Last match in groups. There's so many trios that need to go all
い
or
や、
nothing.
チーターしかいないから。
Be contesting that high ground.
実はやっ
Don't want to
ぱ
take
り上向
it.
き選手だけど
Panzer's gotta be
今
very
チーター
confident
ワン
in
パーティー
terms
は
of
確
making
実にい
sure
るから
to keep those
一
secondary
番
height layers from trying
これ
to
ダイヤ隊で
approach
さ
Jakey,
バカだからさキルペースえぐいやつ見つけるやん
scattered around in the mid
で目の前で
areas.
純正したらあれプレデターじゃねって様子見行くってボコボコにさ
Try
れ
and
て
ensure that his team
やっぱプレデターだったね
remains on height towards
それが
the
正しい
defensive zone. And one of the
ジュリジュン
most
さんってアカウント変え
situations
た
too, if you're a
モングラールハイ
is the fact that Momsy and Skyjump, a team that's been
えぐいモングラール
testing for height, they're only a duo right now.
ただモングラールマジ頼む
We're trying to play in storm, but without the materials to take
Ah.
high, they have no options to do so as they get dropped
Hey,
down.
Nyoka IQ.
Goes down now.
カメラなんかめっちゃ
His
下行ってね
teammate has a solo and
いや次第回収できてる
doing a great job of getting
そうだ
ahead here.
そう
Trying to do what he can to keep his team connected, avoiding that drop down.
勝てるんだ
いや、勝てる
Everyone else just seems like
ムー
they're
ブではある
caught
今の
in
とこ
their
ろ
own crossfire
だって
battles. They don't have
下のやつら
time to think
しんどそうじゃん
about whether or not they can actually
上
charge
見
the
れ
high
てなくね
ground.
誰も
Miscellaneous TP's going up,
見れてない
but
けどラストのマ
nobody
ジビキロ
following
イし
suit
か
after the fact.
通
So
れない
Panzer
と
just
たまに出てくる
continuing
からそ
to
いつら
turn
が消えて
forward
くるかもしれない
down to just a handful of builds. Gets another supply drop though from his team.
けど
Mongrel
2
and
つマッ
Savage
チやんな
will
あ
certainly
ほんと
going to start
Yeah.
dropping down here, just looking for disruptor moments towards those teams in the low ground.
Guden, Clown,
圧かけてもうちょっと、世界平下下ろせたら、サベージと勝つね。いくいくいく。
いや、エイムよ。
いくいく。釣りさん持ってるまだ。
マイクラだ、マイクラ。
ボート作って、この最終盤で。
喋んな。
俺緊張するわ。
勝てるくね？このパーティー勝てそうだけど。
ensuring that they can maintain this frontside position on the low ground, but Bepro gets caught in the mix. ADN drops a layer, then realizes this is down low here. He's got to go back up.
Michael, are you kidding me? As now ADN goes up gets taken down. Mr. Savage Mongrel.
これやりやんのかな？どうすんのこれ？
For the fans looking to close out this last game. They get shut down. It's now a 3 versus 3 down below. Panzer goes down. Savage, he has 4 med kits.
モングラル頑張れ、モングラル無双しろ。
This is so good. Make it so you're never gonna heal opportunity. All they need is for Mongrel to get a big shot and Moneymaker taken out of the call. Now it's all to Savage. He's just gotta stay hidden. Clownski hoping that they can track down this final player. Unfortunately, though, the storm is just too powerful. So much time had been spent inside of that storm that Clownski and Gudenbri will be able to confirm this one, Takata. But at the same time, that might have just been enough for Mongrel and Mr. Savage.
I'm speechless, Taco, because both of these trios, Guden, Clown, Moneymaker, 12th place going into this match, Mongrel, Mr. Savage, Panzer, 14th place going into this match. So just like that, Guden, Clown, Moneymaker secure the VR. They were on top of Mr. Savage and his trio going into this, so that could potentially open up a new spot for that trio to qualify. First of all, congratulations, Guden, Clown, Moneymaker, from NA to EU. Moneymaker showing that he's still got it, qualifying themselves with the VR. But Taco, I want to know what's going to happen with Mr. Savage, Mongrel, and Panzer.
Yeah, I mean, as far as our leaderboard is concerned, Takata, I think that they have either catapulted themselves into the promised land, or we are looking at what could be a heartbreaking defeat, because they really gave it their all in this final lobby. But they're not the only ones. A huge congratulations to Moneymaker's team for finding this final victory of the day. But that's going to do it for us as far as Group 3 is concerned, Takata. Now we got to see what the Destiny say, how everything went down for the day.
Much Takata and the best Taco if you're casting. Can't wait to see you next weekend for our Major 1 finals. Now, boys, it was so close for Mongrel, Savage and Panzer. They really needed to have a strong result. And as Takata hinted, we need to find out if they've made it, but we've got to wait a bit longer. We've got to wait for that to be compiled and ready. So while we do that, let's talk about our Victory Royale winners, Gunbri, Clownski and Moneymaker, aka the newly christened Popular Kid. We have seen these guys grow from strength to strength during today's games, and Mini Miner, it felt like they had full command of the low ground in that.
Yeah, well, they just came off the back of a second place, right, in the previous game before, so they had it in their locker to make it to this sort of stage of the game. I think realistically they would have been very, very happy about getting here just for consistency as well. And it was those couple of eliminations there at the end level, I think it was 2 or 3 that they got right there that just gave them to keep on plowing through this lobby on that low ground. Really unfortunate for Savage, Mongrel and Panzer. We'll see if they qualify through, but a really well-played game from these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to see Guden, Clown, and Money.
Yeah, I did teleport to
to my good friend Coach Boot last week, and he was like, my wild prediction for this group, everyone's talking about all the big stuff. They can get a win, and it took them till game 5. He clearly had some sort of foresight I didn't have, because I didn't see it coming. They ramped up the performances throughout the day, right? And they were close to those consistency spots, but to get it done with the win in the final game must be an amazing feeling. I'm sure Moneymaker's on stream somewhere right now singing Popular as we speak, so yeah, no, it'll be good.
Well, if anyone has got the 2 tabs open watching us and watching Moneymaker, please do clip that. I would like to see that reaction. I would love to hear that beautiful voice singing. So let's take a look at the Victory Royales from today. We'll see which 5 trios have put their spot in the Major 1 finals via a glorious win. And there are some really big names in here, Levin. We were expecting to see these guys going through for the most part.
Absolutely. I mean, of of course, in terms of the big names, right, the obvious ones, Malabuka, Ping, Wox, Vico, Veno, Flixi, Seti, Chari, Kami, the names I think most people expected. I was really happy though to see Kanchi, Finchek and Apple win that first game because they are a bit more of an underrated team, but a team that has been performing incredibly well. If you're locked into the EU streets, you've seen their names in leaderboards in recent weeks, so I can't wait to see what they do come Major 1 finals.
Yeah, and that's what this format's all about, isn't it? We're getting to see some of these teams that are definitely performing well throughout the seasons, able to pick up either a victory or showcase their consistency throughout the days. I'm excited to see what they can do in the finals. I'm excited to see what these last chance qualifiers have as well.
And I'm excited to see what our friend Vico has to say because you saw him take game number 3 with Veno and Flixi earlier, and now you're going to see him talk all about it as he joins us in our own little panelist desk lobby. Vico, first of all, congratulations on qualifying so smoothly through to the Major 1 finals. What have you been up to during the last couple of games?
Not much really, I'll be honest. I was just watching the whole time. Veno and Flixi and Raz. We're just talking about like some teams, and that's basically all it.
ね、リビングゲーマーだね。
Did you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Vico, it's good to have you here.
Living the game on the
You know, I know you're not feeling too well, you're a bit under the weather, but you're still performing, still doing your thing. I will say though, there was that one game where you had the medallion, you know, you went up for the high take, you didn't quite hit the shots you needed to hit. Were you a bit down then after that game, right? Did you feel like you let your team down, and how did you sort of use that energy to bounce back into the next one?
Well, after game 2, I was a bit like mad, but it wasn't like a big mistake, I'd say. Like no one was really mad about it because it's something that happens, you know. But it was definitely a bit sad because I definitely shouldn't have died there. But I couldn't really see because I had an FOV bug. But I mean, I used that energy that I had, you know. We already knew that we were called because we had 180 points after those 2 games, but we just used that energy, you know. Got a couple of eliminations, and then yeah, we just won that game, you know, took height, second moving or something, and then from then on, no one looked up, so we just decided to clear that lobby.
A lot of people in the EU region would say that you guys are the best team in the region this season. You've been winning so many events, proving that again yet again today with some great performances. How do you manage that pressure now going into the Major 1 finals? Does it almost amp up the pressure knowing that you have these expectations on your shoulders?
I wouldn't say there's any pressure, because it's like, it's obvious that we're the best team, you know, who's better than us currently, but also like it's expectation we had set ourselves, you know. I mean, we already knew when we started playing that we're the best team by far, and I mean, after a lot of practice and minor tweaks and stuff, I think there's no pressure really.
It's obvious that a clear part of your game plan is going for that Shogun's medallion, and you basically always get it. But you're not always the player that takes it for the trio. And actually, the Victory Royale you won, Vico, it was on Veno. Do you prefer it when he's taking the medallion, and why would that be?
I definitely prefer it when Veno has it, because it's something that fits his playstyle, you know, like it's an invisible coin.
じゃあ今日も AJ さん頑張りましょう。お疲れ様です。
I'm not that type of player, you know. I take those balls because of my dream and ping, and then take eliminations, and then yeah, that's basically it. It just, I don't know, every time I have the coin it feels like I'm playing at a disadvantage, so
やっぱ俺が世界取るか
it's
ら。
so fun when Veno has it.
おもろい動画。
Look, Vico,
サベージ通ってよ。それは見るわ。
You're the best. You guys are the best team right now. Everyone's looking at you guys as the favorites. Going into the Major 1 finals next weekend, what do you think is the biggest obstacle for you guys? What will be the thing that could potentially stop you guys from winning it all?
Maybe teams from running away from us, but I don't think even if that happens that'll stop us, so I'd say there's nothing really that can stop us except game crashes.
And how does that experience that you guys have now? Of course, you have Veno on the team who has so much experience winning FNCS titles. Of course, yourself with Flixi winning there in Major 3 last year. Does that help boost the confidence going into the Major 1 finals?
Of course it does. I mean, you know, you've got one of the best players of all time in our team, and then you have the 2 current best players in you. So it's like, there's a big confidence boost there, I'd say.
Vico, thank you so much for talking to us. Where can we find you online?
Well, you can find me on Twitch, Vico Trauna, VICOTRYONA, as well as on Twitter or X now, and at YouTube as well. Everything with the same name, and that's it. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Good branding.
Yeah, great branding. Dankeschön. Thank you so much, Vico. Love to your mum. We'll see you in the major finals next week.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Go Vico, go.
Look,
Bye bye.
I can't see Vico without giving his mum my best. I love her very much. She's normally always gaming when he's competing. She's that chill about the situation, and yeah, I appreciate seeing another winner. Now, we have got to find out which of our trios have made it through to the major one finals, not via Victory Royale, but via consistency. So very soon, hopefully, we're actually going to see the list and make things official, because I really do want to know if Mr. Savage's trio made it into that top 5, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like they made the cut. They might have to go through the last chance qualifiers, because they missed out by 1 spot. They were 6th. That's got to be devastating, Mini Miner.
Yeah, that is absolutely devastating. I mean, it just shows that that final game right there, the heel off wasn't quite there, and I think realistically, 11, it was all down to those storm fights earlier on into the game. They'll be not too happy with how that went, and of course they spent so long inside of the storm. Storm sickness comes into play. He couldn't stay in the storm there at the end for long enough, so you know he tried the medkit play as early as he possibly could, and unfortunately for Mr. Savage and Co, they're not making it through to the finals this time, but there's still hope for them.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for them and for all the fans, because I think this is a team who, one, is just so important to the region in terms of, you know, so many people.
モングラル。じゃあありがとうございました。
見てくれてありがとうございました。バイバイ。